welcome to a very special episode coming to you from the sanguine forests of Kumaon. It's warm, it's charged and it's stimulating as we have bookmarked Kumaon as the capital of the country's literary arts for the next 5 days. This is the Kumaon Literary Festival at Jim's Jungle Retreat. The Kumaon region in Uttarakhand is a maze of hills and forests. The uneven Himalayan tracts of Kumaon is hosting a carnival to celebrate literature, art, poetry and music at the second edition of Kumaon Literary Festival. The festival is a platform for writers, artists and musicians to unravel their thoughts in the isolation of the jungles of Jim Corbett. It sets the stage for recitations, storytelling, performances, and even furious debates. A pure delight for the lovers of art and literature. The 5-day event started with parallel sessions on Dalit literature and volatile discussions on national ideologies. While some explored the status of regional literature in the global circuit, others described the lack of ingredients that go into the making of character-based thrillers.
It is easier to carry on with a serial character because once his image is established, half the battle is won.
No discussion is complete without a discourse on romance and fiction. And when you add politics to the mix, it becomes a potent concoction. The debate on shifting notions of the nation-state turned up the heat in an otherwise peaceful ambience. There are times when it becomes amply clear that politics and political agendas will make their way and seep into any celebration of the literary arts. Thanks to actor-turned-politician Shatrughan Sinha, who put it right back in its rightful place. He revealed the highs and lows of his life as an actor and politician in a candid conversation with his biographer, Bharti Pradhan. Sinha is known as one of the most unconventional actors in Hindi cinema.
Person like me who had no background, no family background in films as well as in politics, and a young boy from Patna starts, first time he leaves Patna for Pune, first time he crosses the border of Bihar, goes to Jai Maharashtra, and from first time he goes to a hostel. Never knew anybody. I left my mother crying. My father, of course, he didn't like me because he had himself studied from America and he did his BSc from Kansas.
Literary festivals have travelled around the world. Is this just another spectacular charade of romancing the word, or does it embody a deeper need for the artists to relate to their audience? Well, we meet the literati to find out exactly how these festivals relate to their muse. The trend of literary festivals has created a space for established as well as upcoming writers to interact with each other and connect with their audience.
The reason why I come to a literary festival is because you write a book and then you give it to the publisher and the publisher prints it and goes out into the world and people are hopefully reading it and responding to it. But you never know. You know nothing now about. It's like if your book is your child, then you never get the child's report card to see what's happening. Here at a literary festival, you actually see their faces. They come up to you and they say, I liked your book. Or they say, I liked your first book, but I didn't like your second book. So for the author, from the author's point of view, it's that moment where you make connection with that great unknown, the reader.
Popular mythology fiction writer Amish Tripathi believes that literary festivals take literature to the masses.
You know, the explosion of literary fests across India is a good thing. And last count, I believe there are nearly 100 lit fests in India now. So this is a good thing because in ancient India, literature was always for the masses. It was never an elitist exercise. It was rarely an elitist exercise. There's a reason why everyone knows the stories of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana because bards would sing it everywhere. Literature was for the masses. Over the last few centuries, sadly, it has become more elitist.
However, some writers feel that literary festivals do little to divert attention towards the lesser-known writers.
There are many new poets writing beautifully. The fact is, they don't get that forum, public forum I'm talking. There are private forums, there are certain organizations and they do certain programs. They are limited to in a very limited area of that. Whatever comes on television channels, through which they can reach millions of people, those, that is not the proper forum for them. They will always go for glamorous names and all this, and sometimes, sorry to say, but not very good poetry.
Carnatic vocalist and Ramon Magsaysay awardee T.M. Krishna says that literary festivals induce conversations.
I think literary festivals, the important part of them is they generate conversation, generate the possibility of different views. The possibility of people hearing, for example, most people here would have never heard this kind of discourse on art. As far as arts go, beautiful concert, beautiful dance performance, went back home, oh lovely art, look at culture, Indian culture, how great it is. No, that's the level in which we are looking at it. So it allows for the possibility of these kind of voices, these kind of conversations, and people take that with them. So tomorrow, if they, for example, are exposed to a different art form, maybe they will look at it differently. So for the arts, literary festivals provide another platform for conversation.
The festival brings together a variety of artists, just as it flaunts a delectable diversity of discussions. The Kumaon Literary Festival comes alive with its eclectic choice of food for the soul. We will stir this melting pot just a little bit more after we come back from a very short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are soaking in the literary spirit of the Kumaon Woods, and this is Bookmarked. The woods here indeed come alive with their own sound of music and their own stories. But how many of these stories actually make their way into literary carnivals? Let's find out. The District Magistrate of Nainital, Deepak Rawat, shared legends and legacies of Henry Ramsay, who founded the town of Ramnagar. Henry Ramsay served as the Commissioner of Kumaon and Garhwal districts.
Are not membered. हम कमिश्नर की बात करते हैं तो रैमसे की ही बात होती है. इसके क्या कारण हैं? One is probably a very long period. 42 years in one region, probably a world record for any bureaucrat. Out of those 42 years, 28 entirely in Kumaon and entirely as commissioner.
Ironically, the elements of Kumaoni culture and literature were absent from its eponymous literary festival. Wyndham Campbell prize-winning author and translator Jerry Pinto feels that the regional writers should take the initiative to participate in literary festivals.
I come to Kumaon to see what's happening in Kumaon. What's writing in Kumaon? Who's talking? Who's writing, right? So these, and the books that I buy will not be the books that I can find in Bombay's bookshops. They're the books I can find here. I think representation and how much there is of it is always going to be an issue. The time for Kumaoni writers to come forward and say, "Hum hai." So if you're a Kumaoni writer and you feel that the Kumaon Literary Festival does not represent you, hey, look at the website, write in and say, this is what I am, this is what I do. Here are 2 copies of my books. Let me come next time.
Artists feel that literary festivals should expand their purview to include the diverse arts and cultures of India.
I think it is a right of every artist, every art form, to be given equal respect and equal regard and the same stage as any other art form. There is no high art, low art. This kind of discourse has to begin. It has to begin with understanding what art is and bringing all these art forms onto the main stages.
Forums for regional writers and poets are vanishing. Hindi and Urdu poets are finding it difficult to find platforms to showcase their work. L.S. Bajpai writes his poetry in Hindi. He suggests that literary festivals can provide a new space to voice poetry.
एक शेर सुनाता हूँ कि सिमटा तो एक तंग से घेरे में रह गया, सिमटा तो एक तंग से घेरे में रह गया, उड़ जाता तो आकाश की सीमा नहीं होती। नहीं ये वक्त कि उलझे चराग आपस में, नहीं ये वक्त कि उलझे चराग आपस में, हमारी साझा लड़ाई तो तीरगी से है।
There's something to be said about the mysticism of the region and its folk tales that are passed on from generation to generation. Translating all that magic into a language that we understand today is an art in itself. Do these translations do justice to the folklore of the region, or more importantly, do we as readers do justice to these translations? Here's what we found out. Over the years, English has proven its supremacy over the diverse vernacular literature of India. The Kumaon Literary Festival makes an effort to put a spotlight on regional literature and the importance of translations. A dialogue between publishers, writers and translators brought the vernacular discourse back into focus.
What has happened, I think, is that the need for English to find good jobs, the commercial importance of English has impacted our culture to a large extent. So you find even the youth from small towns are more focused on the English language because they know it will get them a good job. So even in small towns, my books sell in the English language, not the translations. The translations are bought normally by senior citizens. So what we need is a strong promotion of, it's not that talented writers don't exist in Indian languages. I myself have read many of them. They need to be promoted, they need to be marketed, and they need to be translated into other languages. So for example, a classic like Mrityunjay, which is a Marathi book. I happen to have heard of it because I live in Maharashtra, in Mumbai. But many people outside of Maharashtra haven't heard of Mrityunjay.
While there is an argument to be made about the thought getting lost in translation, there is still a question of preserving the legacy.
The loss is an inevitable part of translation, and that fear of that loss cannot stop us from translating. Because if that were so, then there would be this wealth of world literature that we would have been deprived of. We would not have read any Homer, any Iliad, any Socrates. We would not have read the Russian masters, the French symbolists, the Latin American writers. There is so much that we would not have read, so much that would not have enriched our own writing if the people who were translating them had been fearful of that loss. So the fear of the loss should not stop people from translating.
Poor returns on investment discourages publishers from publishing translations. The question is there any demand for translation literature?
The problem, I think, about translation in India is a monetary problem. Like everything else is about money, this is also about money. To translate a novel would take you about a year, right? And suppose you were only translating that novel. Let's say that you wanted a livelihood. Not an income, not a lifestyle, not lots of money, but just enough to live on. Let's say that figure is 30,000 rupees. Okay, so if you need 30,000 rupees a month in order to translate a book for a book, and you need it for a year, you're talking 3.6 lakhs. 3.6 lakhs is how much a publisher will give 10 writers to translate 10 books. They won't give one publisher. So all translation then is an act of love. Now you translate the book. Many of my translator friends have translated books that have not been published. Okay, because there's no publisher who will take them. What happens is that the best of one literary world is what you want to take to the other literary world. But there's no money in it. So you have to do it for love.
All art has a music of its own that flows from continent to continent and connects shore to shore. We will hear a little of that music after we come back from a very short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. All art is indeed a devotion to that very personal muse. It is that personal connection with a higher power that you see in every stroke of the brush and every note in the octave. Here at Kumaon, we get a small glimpse into that very personal connection. As Dr. Seuss says, sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. So take a notepad and document it before the moment slips into history. And what better than on a handcrafted diary? Vidushi is a graphic designer who decided to capture the celebration of life on paper. And a wild child was born. That's the brand name she uses to express her love for the arts.
So we wanted to make it commercial and we wanted to make it reachable to a lot of people. Then while I was in design school, there was an elective for hand-bound books, right? So I really enjoyed that. I thought that, making books and binding them yourself is very therapeutic, and when you go on making stuff on it, it's a different experience altogether. So I think our concept came from there, right? And so now we hand bind all the books that we have, right? And we source paper from all over the country, and we have used different techniques to bind them, right? There's one book where we have tea-dyed the papers. Then there's a collection in which we have used Coptic stitch binding, which is used by ancient Egyptian scriptures, right? And it's very simple and it's very doable, and it opens flat on the table, right? We use different kind of papers. We source some paper from Jaipur, from Pondicherry, from Delhi, and so yeah, that's it.
Folktales have been an integral part of India's rich and vibrant culture. With the constant rise of commercial entertainment, the art of oral tradition of storytelling is sadly on the ebb. The Octave Foundation is an NGO from Delhi. Octave artists are trying to revive the culture of folktales by transforming them into an animated form of performing arts.
The idea behind the whole thing is to bring together as many folk stories as possible that have not been read or heard in as widely as possible. Nobody has a copyright over folktales. Folktales have been around for years. We don't know how old they are. They've just been passed on by word of mouth by our grandparents, our parents to us, and we will take it forward. So we're basically trying to break the mold of stories coming only from grandparents to children. I mean, stories are meant for everyone. They're meant for you, they're meant for you.
Folktales may be a thing of the past, but they hold a mirror to the society. They carry moral lessons that hold water even in the concrete urbanization of lifestyles.
When there's no TV, when there's no films, there's no narrative, this was the only way people conveyed a message, right? Now how do you keep people engaged? You tell them a tale. The moment if I tell you don't do this, you will go ahead and do it. If I tell you this one did this and this happened, so you probably take a message from it and say, yeah, if this happened to him, it will probably happen to me as well, and I will not do it. It's just a way of conveying a message. I mean, I don't know if others have told you this. At least in India, I know the folk tales these are the tales which are narrated to kids to make them eat or to make them put them to sleep.
These artists use the art of storytelling to bridge distinct cultures. They employ folk tales to bring to center stage the magic of northeastern India.
Octave Foundation basically aims at connecting people from the northeastern region to the rest of the country and vice versa. There's a sharp differentiation between these regions, and I really hope through cultural interchanges people will come to know about more stories and help people connect.
तो सरकारी आंकड़ों की तरफ आपसे तवज्जो चाहूँगी कि बेस बरुआ रिपोर्ट के हिसाब से
Octave Foundation is aiming for the people of the northeastern region to connect with the rest of the country and the rest of the country with the northeastern region.
As the sun sets, words fade and the magic of music takes over.
महबूब इलाही
The melody of ghazals permeates the ambience and the pen is set to rest.
Rangle Mola, Amola, Rangle Mola, Rangle, Rangle Mola, Rangle Mola.
The 5-day celebration of art and literature comes to a close, leaving behind all the letters and making way for newer beginnings.